A while ago, Disney announced that Incredibles 3 is in the works, which means fans can either jump in enthusiasm or groan at annoyance at another Pixar sequel. Hi, I'm Matty Abraham, an artist on the internet, and this generation's Edna mode. You need to know super so darling. What am I even doing? I love the Incredibles movies. One is a lot better than the other, but I love them both nonetheless. But how can you not? The first one tells a very grounded story of a retired superhero trying and failing to adjust to civilian life, along with teaching the audience not to be caught up in the past and accept the life that you have in the moment. The second one is, it's there. It ties up at least one loose end by legalizing superhero activity in society, and by the end of it, it seems like the story's all wrapped up, right? Oh, wait. Yep, we're getting a third one. And since it doesn't come out for a while, what say we discuss the potential, shall we? Your first thought is that the existence of a third movie is kind of unnecessary considering that the story doesn't have anywhere else to go. And you know what? You'd be right. But at this point, it's become kind of a rule in Hollywood to not have only 2 installments in a superhero franchise. I mean, unless you're Batman, Aquaman, Shazam, the Fantastic Four, or Andrew Garfield.
Oh, please.
In which cases, you either get rebooted or just plain cancelled. But Incredibles is a different breed, being created by Pixar Animation Studios, and those guys have a habit of making sequels long past their predecessors. Hell, it took them 14 years to even give The Incredibles a sequel. At which point only the diehard fans cared and were disappointed in it for not living up to the first. But now there's a chance. Incredibles 3 could have the potential to tell an engaging, mature story while the second one drastically missed the mark. Keep in mind that I don't work for Pixar, so this is all purely speculative and may or may not be proven otherwise when the movie releases. So put on your speculation goggles and strap yourselves in because we're about to make a movie. Let's do it! This should be stated, but I'm in the majority that agrees that there needs to be a time skip for a more engaging story. It would make sense too, because the audience who grew up with the first movie had kids of their own by the time Incredibles 2 released. And those kids are likely in their late teens entering their early adult years. I mean, look at me. I was 2 years old when the first movie came out, 16 when Incredibles 2 released, and by the time Incredibles 3 drops, I'll probably be in my late 20s. Pixar has also had time skips in movies before to show that the characters in the movies grew up with the audience. However, this can also have a negative effect as well. As a Gen Z kid, I'm noticing that most movies these days try to appeal to me in all the wrong ways by referencing things like YouTube influencers, the existence of TikTok, and heavy Gen Z slang terms. And don't even get me started on Gen Alpha slang terms. If animated movies start using the word skibbity in the next few years, I am going to genuinely throw a boulder at someone's car. One can only hope that the Incredibles franchise will be the exception to this, considering that the story's set in the 1960s. AKA before cell phones were even a thing and all people had were wall phones and contact info was stored in these ancient devices called phone books. If you were born in an early enough time, then you'll know what they are and probably look through one of them out of curiosity. Speaking of the story, let's set the scene. The world has never been better. Superheroes all over the globe are working around the clock in order to keep the world safe, and by all accounts, life is incredible again. Our main heroes, the Incredibles, have all grown older by about 8 to 10 years, and with it comes a far greater family divide than ever, but more on that later. Bob and Helen are still going strong despite their age, Violet could be a college graduate, Dash could be in high school, and Jack, still being quite young, could be facing elementary school. More superheroes also enter the picture, adding more variety to the roster, but with the rising population of superheroes also comes the rising population of supervillains. And said supervillains, while dysfunctional, can form a league of their own that sets them apart from all other villain leagues in superhero media because these guys are ruthless. Wanting nothing but power, control, and respect, these guys will do whatever it takes to get it and won't even hesitate to kill any supers who stand in their way. To the point where they're not just a league of villains, they're a cult, and they prophesize the end of all superheroes, leaving nothing but the Radiant Order. How's that for a name? The leader, who we'll call Varish, can be a sympathetic villain with a tragic background. Like say, he's always been mistreated because of the limited control he's had of his powers growing up. Orphaned, bullied at school, and rejected by society because of how dangerous his powers can be. What are his powers? Well, I may seem a little bit biased here, but I'm just gonna say magic. Actually, scratch that. Let's not even make him sympathetic. Let's just make the audience see him as a straight-up, honest-to-God supervillain. Because apparently, Disney or Pixar can't have villains who are evil for the sake of being evil, so there's always gotta be some form of sympathy. His lackeys, however, can be a bunch of supers who chose to become evil because of how they use their powers made them too dangerous to be heroes, making them rejected by society. Like say, a pyrokinetic, a technopath, an audiokinetic, and a shapeshifter. And with so many supers who try to defeat them, they become a lot more well-known and feared with nobody who's been able to fight them and live to tell the tale. At least not any individual supers. They need a team to defeat them. And not just any team, they need the titular heroes themselves, the Incredibles. However, they haven't been functioning very well as a team in recent years, which brings us to our next segment. With the characters having been aged up about a decade, this could cause the biggest divide amongst the family, particularly because of the kids and their own individual drama. Violet being a college graduate means she could be struggling to find a job in the workforce because of her superhero responsibilities weighing on her. She's late to interviews, fired from any job she gets, and can't afford a house, making her still live with her parents. Unless superheroes actually get paid to take on bad guys, then I suppose only half that statement could be Violet's driving force. Dash being in high school means that he could be a lot more reckless and rebellious with his powers. He lets his powers show a lot more when doing track, he stays out late to stop any crooks and thugs, which negatively affects his school grades, and overall, just wanting a sense of freedom to go where he wants, when he wants, and do whatever he wants to do. Jack could potentially be written as an autistic coded character, as sure, he has some control over his powers, but being picked on at school makes his powers show a little bit more, furthering any bully's narrative. And throughout all this, Bob and Helen are just trying to hold it all together. Though maybe Bob would be a little bit more distracted now that he's able to relive the glory days that he's yearned for decades. This could actually further the divide between him and Dash, as if Bob scolds him one night for moonlighting hero work when he should be focusing on his studies. Dash in turn could call out how hypocritical that makes Bob because he's just as willing to do the exact same thing. Jack's whole thing at school could also lead to the conflict of the movie. Like perhaps one day Varish could seek out Jack in an attempt to recruit him. One thing I forgot to mention about Varish is that he does the research necessary to take out any superhero he kills. Like as a hypothetical, let's say he wants to kill Frozone. He knows his weaknesses involve being around too much fire, and as such he uses that knowledge to his advantage. Because he does his research, he knows all about the Incredibles, who they are, about the kids, and what their powers are. And because Jack is a lot like him in a way, Varish tries to convince Jack to join the side of evil to show those who mistreated him what for. Jack, however, because he was raised to have good morals, immediately declines the offer. But then instead of giving an evil monologue, like a certain other villain, he gives Jack a super vague warning. Jack doesn't know this guy, or what his plans even are, and so he becomes stressed out about it and does what he can to protect his family without telling them, because apparently communication is not this family's strongest aspect. Helen could also put her detective skills from the second movie to good use by doing some research of her own by figuring out just what they're up against. This is where she can also find out that Varish and the Radiant Order are indeed a force to be reckoned with, seeing as they killed other superheroes including the Indomitable Brick, Screech, and Reflux from the second movie. All the while Bob is still trying to hold the family together and departs a bit of wisdom to each of the kids. For Violet, he could say that it's okay to feel lost in the world and that the journey of self-discovery starts with the first step. For Dash, it'd be not to be reckless with his powers, because if he is, then one day what happened with the Jet could happen again if he goes down that path. For Jack, it'd be not to let what anyone says about him or his powers negatively affect him, and that his powers make him special, and that Jack's powers especially make him who he is. And in doing so, drives the ensuing conflict to be much more heartbreaking when we get there. So, the rising actions have all been set in motion. A divided family needs to cooperate against a cult of ruthless villains but can't work together like they used to. The main villain has also established ties to the youngest member of the family. How does this all drive the conflict? Well, once the villains have their sights set on the Incredibles, the first fight that ensues shows how the heroes aren't as coordinated as they used to be. Mistiming attacks, messing up combos, all that jazz. The Pyrokinetic is relentlessly trying to burn the heroes or absorb Jack's fire powers whenever he tries to use it. The Audiokinetic can disorient the heroes with supersonic screams. The Technopath is strategically shooting a blaster at Dash no matter where he runs. And the Shapeshifter takes on the form of a literal monster in order to get a one-up on Mr. Incredible. Varish, seeing how the family is on the brink of defeat, is ready to strike the final blow to the heroes. But then Mr. Incredible, in an act of heroism, takes the hit to defend his family. This leaves Mr. Incredible unconscious, damn near lifeless, leaving Helen and the kids mortified, and Jack using his teleportation powers allows the heroes to escape. Bob is then taken to the hospital, and whether this encounter kills him or not is entirely up to the writers, though I find it highly unlikely that Bob will die in the movie. Now I know what some of you may be thinking, a lot of this seems pretty dark for a kids movie. And to that I say, Brad Bird himself says that the Incredibles films aren't kids movies, as he sees animation as a medium that can be used to tell mature stories no matter the demographic. I mean, come on, would you really call the first Incredibles film a kids movie when the film opens with an attempted suicide in the first 6 minutes? On top of the fact that the main villain has a confirmed body count? Would you? Yeah, I didn't think so. Even so, kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. They can be just as capable of understanding mature themes as the adults who show them these movies. But side tangent over, all this can lead perfectly to the true conflict. Blinded by rage, Jack would confront Varish himself, and given his many powers, he has no issue taking out the rest of the Radiant Order. Come face to face with Varish, Jack just goes buck wild on him at every chance he gets. He uses his metal form to reflect any magic projectiles, he uses his demon form to wail on Varish and attempts to burn him to a crisp in his fire form. All the while, Varys is spouting out some cultish nonsense about how all this has been heavily prophesized, that the leader of the Radiant Order would fall, and how he who defeats him would become the successor, and it'll just become an ongoing cycle. While he gives his villain monologue, as cheesy as it is to have one, it could spark a montage of Dash and Violet running through the city as a callback to the first movie, trying to find Jack with the help of Helen and Frozone. And right as Jack is about to deliver the final blow, he remembers what Bob said earlier and how not to let what anybody says about him negatively affect him, and that his powers make him who he is. He's not a villain, he's not the successor to a cult leader, he's a hero, and heroes don't kill in this franchise. Soon enough, the other heroes finally find Varys' hideout, and this is when Varys says whatever slogan his cult had and activates the bomb in the building. Using her quick thinking, Violet creates a force field to protect the family from the explosion and collapse of whatever building they're in. All except for Varys, because I feel like a gruesome death for a character like this is very much needed, especially considering Syndrome's death. Afterwards, we finally see that Jack is doing a lot better socially, making some friends, Dash graduating from high school with a full track scholarship, and Violet finally moving into a house of her own where Dash and Jack frequently visit. And during one of their visits, they all watch TV together when they see something on the news about how there's a new threat endangering the city. I don't know, maybe some throwaway villains at the hero spot at the beginning of the movie. And as that pops up, the doorbell rings where the kids are greeted by Lucius, Helen, and a now fully recovered Bob. Because after writing more of this, I don't think that killing him off would make this ending as cool as it otherwise would have been. They all give each other the look as they all put on their masks and run off to save the day. Mr. Incredible then rips open his shirt like in the first movie, followed by the ending title card and rolling of the credits. And yeah, that's my pitch for Incredibles 3, I guess. Did I do a good job? Let me know down below. So, do I think that all this will actually happen in Incredibles 3? Probably not. As I said previously, I'm not a Pixar executive. Plus, it's a modern day Disney movie, so they're gonna try to push for all these woke themes despite Brad Bird's personal wishes for how he wants the movie to play out. Really, when it comes to Disney, they only really target towards one or two demographics. Either children or postmodernism SJWs who just want to push progressive themes onto the impressionable youngsters of today's world. I don't know, maybe I'm just saying that because Rachel Zegler was one of those people, and we all know how that turned out. For that second demographic, can we at least make it feel more natural so that these themes aren't force-fed to these kids? The LGBT community especially needs all the positive representation it can get without being no-scope by the mouse. But regardless, I'm pretty happy with what I came up with. It's mature and it can accurately depict how kids handle their emotions, whether they're a college graduate, a high schooler, or an elementary student. And the best part? I was able to wrap it all up in a neat little bow and not set up any more Incredible sequels. Perhaps this can inspire the company to go back to its roots and take more risks with more original properties that push the boundaries of cinema. Because that's what made Pixar unique in the first place, so I look forward to seeing what they come up with.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Nope, I cannot do it. I am not gonna give the movies like this and Toy Story 5 the same treatment because frankly, they don't deserve it. Please, just go watch Elio, even if it's not great. I personally just can't with Pixar sequels anymore. But otherwise, I believe that's all from me. What do you guys think? Do you guys like my pitch for Incredibles 3? Are there any ideas you guys have of your own? Let me know in the comments. I truly love engaging with my audience. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!